There is someone at the time who is pushing for Paulus to take the blame. Someone making a scapegoat out of Paulus to protect his own image. They're trying to pass the blame of what happened at Stalingrad and need Paulus to be seen as passive, timid, and a poor commander. And Paulus has subsequently been viewed as someone not willing to defy orders and break out. But this mystery man was also unwilling to defy those exact same orders, even though he has championed this idea that Paulus was at fault. Why is Paulus not to blame? And who is the one pushing the idea that he was to blame? And what motive would they have to pin the blame on Paulus? Let's find out. After months of fighting inside the city of Stalingrad, on the 19th of November 1942, the Red Army launched Operation Uranus. By the 23rd of November, 6th Army was cut off inside the Stalingrad pocket. As shown in a previous video, on the 20th of November 1942, Jeselnik, chief of the Luftwaffe General Staff, indicates to Hitler that it might be possible to supply Paulus's trapped 6th Army by air. This is all that Hitler needs, and his mind is made up. When Goering arrives on the scene on the 22nd of November, sensing that Hitler's mind has already been made up, he pledged that the Luftwaffe could supply the 6th Army as well. Paulus is ordered to stand and fight. With the benefit of hindsight, many have argued that General Paulus should have defied Hitler and broken out to the west, thereby saving his soldiers and depriving the Soviets of a great victory. This debate really involves two different issues: Paulus's moral responsibility to disobey his Führer and the practical possibility of actually accomplishing the withdrawal. For the sake of this video, we're going to assume that a breakout attempt was possible, and that it would have succeeded with relatively minor losses. This then just leaves us with one simple question: should Paulus have defied his orders and attempted to break out? One of Paulus's core commanders, Seydlitz, was so adamant that breaking out was the only option that he ordered the withdrawal of the 94th Infantry Division in preparation for the breakout. Seydlitz was one of the commanders who had survived the Demyansk pocket and so had experienced a very similar situation. 94th Infantry Division even burnt its food supplies in its minor withdrawal. Hitler reacted to this by placing Seydlitz in charge of the pocket's northern front, sending a clear message that withdrawal was absolutely not acceptable and that he would relieve anyone who attempted it. Even Seydlitz then remarked, "There's nothing left but to obey." This was the strongest voice in the pocket arguing for a breakout and a withdrawal, and here he is accepting Hitler's will. When you look at the situation in the early days, not only do you find that Paulus is being reassured that they will be supplied and relieved, but also that he has no choice but to obey his orders. The confrontational, uncouth behaviour of Hitler and his adherents undoubtedly repelled the general, who was himself a model of civility. Nevertheless, Paulus had witnessed and personally benefited from the phenomenal success achieved by Hitler. To question that success now would have been an act of egotism comparable to that of the dictator himself. Moreover, Paulus undoubtedly believed that if he attempted to disobey at this stage, he would simply be replaced by another commander. Paulus reportedly remarked to Major General Arthur Schmidt, his chief of staff, that he would willingly give his head for the 6th Army, but that he felt it was useless to do so. Those arguing that Paulus should have defied his orders are looking at this problem from the benefit of hindsight. We know 6th Army was doomed. We know that the Luftwaffe failed to supply the army, and so it's easy to say that Paulus may as well have defied his orders and broken out. But things weren't so clear at the time. Paulus does not know if the Luftwaffe can supply him or not. As I've said, in theory, they should have supplied him with a lot more than they actually did. Paulus also doesn't know if he will be relieved or not. We know now that he doesn't get relieved, but at the time, he was being told that they will break through to him. The point to note is this: Paulus wants to break out and he is willing to do so. He just needs the order. If someone would give him the order, he would attempt a breakout. He later goes on to create Operation Thunderclap, 6th Army's breakout plan, and is asking constantly, when can I break out? Shall I break out? Who's going to give me the order to break out? And here's the problem: he never receives the order. Hitler can give him that order, but so can Paulus's superiors. At the beginning of the siege, his immediate superior, General Oberst Maximilian von Weeks, commander of Army Group B, was also forbidden to allow the breakout and withdrawal of the 6th Army. Weeks was on Paulus's side and argued for a breakout. However, Weeks is only Paulus's superior for a short while before Paulus is placed under the command of another general. This new general is our Mystery Man. Hey. Mystery Man agrees with Hitler and wants Paulus to stand his ground as well. So, to put this into context, Paulus's former commander, Weeks, argues for a breakout, as does Richthofen, commander of 4th Air Fleet, who denies that 6th Army can be supplied by the air. And as mentioned, the corps commanders in 6th Army, Paulus's subordinates, also want to break out. So all these generals and their chiefs of staff believe that a breakout is the only option, and they argued as much as well. But Mystery Man does not. He believes 6th Army should stay where it is, and Hitler is convinced by his influence and by the fact that the Luftwaffe could supply the 6th Army by air. On the 26th of November, Paulus sends a letter to Mystery Man describing the situation and stating that he hadn't received orders or information from the High Command for at least 36 hours, and that his request for freedom of action from Hitler had been denied. Paulus asks Mystery Man to help solve the problem, either relieve him or give him the order to break out. This is in fact the letter where Paulus ends it saying, "In the circumstances, I hope you will overlook the inadequacy of the paper and the fact that this letter is in longhand." This was because they were running out of paper and didn't have a typewriter. And this should be a big clue to some of you since I've mentioned this letter before. Throughout the siege and the relief attempts, Paulus asks Mystery Man over and over for updates on the relief attempt and doesn't get anything substantial. He's left in the dark because Mystery Man doesn't want to upset him and because progress wasn't going so well. Paulus asks over and over for the order to break out. Am I to take it that I am now authorized to initiate Operation Thunderclap? I can't give you the full authority today, but I hope to get a decision tomorrow. Oh, but it's okay to blame Paulus for not defying orders and not going against Hitler, but nobody's blaming Mystery Man for not doing the exact same thing. He is Paulus's immediate superior. He could order Paulus to break out and shoulder the responsibility himself, but he doesn't do this, and in fact he's the one making it out as though Paulus is passive and timid and unwilling to defy orders. He manipulates the evidence against Paulus. He blames Paulus for not ordering the breakout, saying that he was ordered to break out when he actually wasn't. But Mystery Man is the one in the same position, able to order a breakout, able to defy Hitler's orders just like Paulus, and able to shoulder that responsibility. He's the one who helped persuade Hitler that 6th Army should stay where it is, and to top it all off, He later claims to have given Paulus the order to break out, which he did not do. So even assuming the breakout attempt was possible, which is an entire debate in itself, what we have here is a situation where Paulus is ordered to hold his ground under all circumstances. He's told he would receive adequate air supplies and would be able to be rescued soon. So in late November to early December, why would Paulus want to break out? In mid-December, with his army weak and the relief attempt not even reaching halfway to his forces, he still doesn't receive the order to break out. Thinking objectively, it's simply not reasonable to assume Paulus should defy his orders and attempt to break out. Those of you saying he should have broken out are saying this from the benefit of hindsight. You know the outcome. You know 6th Army is doomed. You know that the army won't be rescued. But Paulus, at the time, does not know this. He's being told by Hitler and by the Luftwaffe, we will support you, we will supply you, and we will break you out. Do not withdraw. It's no wonder he doesn't attempt a breakout. And let's not forget the other person in this equation, the man who is equally unwilling to defy orders, the man who is equally unable to issue Paulus the order to break out, the man who actually helped persuade Hitler to order 6th Army to withdraw, the man who blames Paulus and makes it out as though Paulus is at fault to cover his own mistakes and to make himself look as perfect as possible in the eyes of history. Who is this man? It is Erich von Manstein. Yes, Manstein is lying, as you'll find out in full in part 2.